I graduated from a top-tier 211, 985 category university in China. After getting married and having a child, I found myself becoming a street seller, with my child in tow, constantly being chased away. Today, while I was setting up my stall, a group of people came to dry me off again. A crowd gathered around to watch. Among them was a little girl who bought something from me. She happened to witness the whole scene of people trying to chase me away. Maybe, out of a child's sense of justice, she didn't understand and asked, "Why can't she set up a stall here?" Her mother replied, "That's why you need to study hard, or you'll end up like her." Hearing that, I felt so heartbroken. I knew this day would come, the day I'd hear these words. Ever since I started selling on the streets, I knew someone would eventually say that to me. But haven't I tried hard enough? I feel like I've worked really hard. I studied so hard to get into a top-tier 211 985 university. But what does it matter now? After getting married and having a kid, everything has gone back to square one. Now I've ended up on the streets with my child, becoming an example of what happens when you don't study hard. It's so ironic.
The woman in the video is a 32-year-old single mother with no house, no car, and a debt of 310,000 yuan. After her divorce, she sought employment, but with China currently facing a widespread economic downturn, finding a stable white-collar job has proven difficult despite her prestigious university degree. Without connections or a social network, she found that receptionists or sales positions only offered a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, far from enough to repay her debts or adequately care for her child. As a result, she turned to creating content on social media while also running a street stall to make ends meet, all while enduring ridicule from others. Coming from an underprivileged background, she was taught from a young age to study hard, get into college, and secure a stable job, as if that was the only way to escape poverty and change her fate. But the reality is that after becoming a mother, finding a job has become incredibly difficult. This academically successful woman is now questioning everything, facing the harsh truth of China's current brutal job market. Recently, another shocking incident has gone viral. A female graduate from Beijing's 211 category university, hailing from a poor family in Ningxia, starved to death in a rental apartment in Xi'an. On August 17th, a WeChat public account, Zeng Guang, published a lengthy article titled, "A Girl from Out of Town Died in My Rental Apartment," which has since spread widely across both domestic and international media. The landlady, a woman working in Xinjiang, recounted how a female tenant quietly passed away in a Xi'an rental property. The deceased was a 33-year-old woman from a poor mountain village in Ningxia province. The landlady referred to her as Xiao Wen. From a young age, Xiao Wen excelled academically, becoming a source of pride for both her family and the villagers. After high school, she lived up to expectations by gaining admission to a prestigious 211 university in Beijing. In the years following her graduation, Xiao Wen was focused on passing the civil service exam. She repeatedly secured the top score in the written exams for provincial public sector positions in her hometown, but consistently failed during the interview stage. After her death, her father, who came to Xi'an to handle her funeral, said that his daughter's repeated failures were due to unfair practices. He said, "If even the top score isn't selected, it must be because our rural family lacks connections, and those positions were taken by people with better backgrounds." When her hopes of becoming a civil servant were dashed, Xiao Wen began taking on various jobs and recently came to Xi'an in search of work. But she struggled to make ends meet, with even her rent being covered by money her parents had to borrow from relatives and friends back home. According to Xiao Wen's spending records, she spent no more than 5 yuan on any meal or purchase, consistently settling for the cheapest and poorest quality items. On April 9th this year, Xiao Wen's mother borrowed 10,000 yuan from relatives and transferred it to her to pay rent. On April 21st, her mother borrowed another 1,000 yuan from 2 relatives and sent it to Xiao Wen for living expenses. But this time, Xiao Wen did not accept the money and blocked all contact with her family. Police investigations revealed that the last time Xiao Wen used a facial recognition system to enter her rental apartment was on May 20th. After that, there were no records of her leaving the apartment, either through surveillance footage or the building's entry system. During this time, she did not order any food deliveries, and there was no signs of cooking in the apartment. On the morning of June 3rd, The landlady received a message from the Shanxi Electric Power Company notifying her that the rental unit was overdue on payments and that power would be cut off June 4th. The landlady sent a message to remind Xiaowen to pay the electricity bill, warning that if the power was cut, the food in the refrigerator would spoil. Xiaowen didn't respond until 5 p.m. when she finally replied, "I know, sis, there's nothing in the fridge." On June 13th, the landlady received another overdue payment notice and realized that the power had indeed been cut off since June 4th. She tried to contact Xiaowen again but received no response. On June 25th, the property management company called the landlady to report a strong foul odor coming from the rental unit. The landlady instructed the property management to hire a locksmith to open the door, where they discovered Xiaowen had died inside. Her body was already unrecognizable, and her identity was confirmed through DNA testing. According to the forensic examination, her estimated time of death was around June 15th. Police suspect that she likely died of starvation in the apartment. Xiaowen's family rushed to Xi'an to handle the funeral arrangements, but due to financial difficulties to afford hotel accommodations, they were eager to settle the matter quickly. After requesting some compensation from the landlady, they left in haste. The article revealed that Xiaowen was not the only child in her family. Her impoverished parents had sent her to university with great expectations for her future. It was evident that her father was deeply grieved by her death. The article analyzed how Xiaowen's lofty ambitions from childhood clashed sharply with the harsh realities of life. The 1,000 yuan her mother sent may have been the final straw that broke her spirit. She likely refused to accept the money out of guilt towards her parents, while also knowing that such a small amount was nowhere near enough to sustain her. After Xiaowen's death was exposed on WeChat, the incident caused an uproar online. Comments from people flooded in, with one remarking, "The tragedy has complex social and generational causes." Others commented, "She didn't fail the interviews. She failed because she didn't have the connections needed for them. Even if you're talented and hardworking, without the right background or connections, there's no way to enter the system." Another person commented, "My wife, a graduate with a master's degree from a top-tier 985 teaching university, has passed the written exams for public teaching positions multiple times. But she kept failing the interviews for various reasons. Without connections, no matter how capable you are, it doesn't work." This phenomenon of social stratification in China reflects deeper societal issues. For a long time, the unequal distribution of educational resources, limitations on career development, and the lack of social welfare have made it difficult for children from poor families to change their destinies through personal effort. In today's society, the difficulty of job hunting has become an undeniable issue. For students who did not graduate from 985, 211, or top-tier universities, especially those who are not particularly attractive or charismatic, finding a job is even more challenging. Family background has increasingly become an invisible barrier in the job market. Children from ordinary families struggle to enter upward social mobility channels because their parents lack money and power. Meanwhile, children from wealthy families with extensive social connections can easily secure respectable jobs, higher incomes, and greater development opportunities through methods such as prearranged hiring or favor-based hiring. For children from poor families without influential parents, the hope for a better future grows dimmer, leading to a variety of social tragedies. A girl born in 1998 from a rural area graduated from college but couldn't find a job, so she returned home to help her parents harvest corn.
My dad was laid off. The boss said the brick factory didn't need workers anymore. Then my mom lost her job too. I already couldn't find a job after college, and my parents were upset, thinking I had embarrassed them. Now that my mom lost her job too, my dad's been losing his temper more and more. I really don't know what to do anymore. It's so hard to find a job now, even harder than getting into college. My parents have spent their whole lives working as bricklayers to put me through college. Now, after I graduated, I still can't find a job. Watching my parents in their 50s being scolded by their boss, unable to even lift their heads. If they hadn't sent me to this university, they wouldn't have to endure this. I can't imagine how many times they've been yelled at over the past decade. For the first time, I saw my mom cry like a child, completely defeated. Do poor people really have no dignity?
In the video, this 26-year-old college graduate is from Shaanxi University of Technology. Growing up, she and her four sisters were looked down upon by others. She started school late and was ridiculed for being older. To attend college, she took out loans to pay for tuition and borrowed money for training courses. But after graduating, people still rejected her for being too old and she couldn't find a job. She had never felt this sad before. Unable to repay her student loans, she continued to burden her parents. As China's economy continues to decline, competition in the workplace is becoming increasingly fierce, and young people are facing an even more challenging job market.
好了，兄弟们，简单聊会儿啊。
I used to think that a midlife crisis was just about career setbacks, but now, as I approach 40 and have been laid off, finding a new job feels as difficult as landing on the moon. I never thought I'd be unemployed. Even if it did happen, I figured with my 985 university background and experience in big companies, it wouldn't take long to find a new job. But here I am. Midlife truly is one of the most critical turning points in life. The second half of life could get harder and harder. At this stage, I'm filled with a sense of despair. There aren't many paths left to choose from. You know that if you continue on the current path, it's like heading into a swamp. But how many people can clearly see and dare to take a different path? Take me, for example. Should I keep looking for jobs in the tech industry, only to face being laid off again in a couple of years when I'm even older? Or should I switch careers now? Well, what would I even switch to? What can I do? If I can't figure this out, the future will only get more painful. In the video, a middle-aged man known as Wolf Brother shares his story. He holds a master's degree in computer science from a prestigious 985 university and worked at Baidu for 6 years. He eventually became senior software engineer with an average monthly salary of over 40,000 yuan. But in April of this year, he was laid off by the company. After leaving Baidu, Wolf Brother has repeatedly faced setbacks in the job market. He's either been disqualified due to his age or received no response after applying. At best, he has only made it to the first round of interviews and hasn't even had the chance to discuss salary. Unable to find work, Wolf Brother has ended up lying flat at home, and tensions with his wife have started to escalate. During one heated argument, he stormed out of the house in the middle of the night and wandered the streets for several hours just to clear his head. He created a Douyin account called Wolf Brother Helps You Find a Job, where he shares updates about his life. His videos document his emotional journey, from calmly accepting his layoff, feeling joy when his severance payment arrived, to enjoying 2 weeks of rest, then feeling optimistic about returning to his hometown in northeast China, only to be disheartened by the region's low wages. Now back in Beijing, he finds himself uncertain and confused about his future job prospects. According to official data released by China on August 17th, the unemployment rate for urban youth aged 16 to 24, excluding students, reached 17.1% in July. It is a significant rise from 13.2% in June, marking the highest rate this year. For the overall labor force, the National Urban Surveyed unemployment rate was 5.2% in July. The data from the National Bureau of Statistics only accounts for urban areas, which means it does not fully reflect the overall employment situation in China. Tens of millions of migrant workers from rural areas, a group particularly vulnerable to economic slowdowns, are not included in these statistics. The closely watched youth unemployment rate hit a historic high of 21.3% in June 2023. Following that, the government stopped publishing unemployment figures and changed how it calculates the data, excluding students still in school from the calculation of youth unemployment rates. The number of university graduates in China has been rising annually, with an estimated 11.8 million students expected to graduate in 2024, an increase of 210,000 from the previous year. According to data from recruitment website Zhaopin.com, published in July, the employment rate for this year's graduates is only 55.5%. In other words, 1 out of every 2 graduates is unable to find a job. The difficulty young people face in securing a job has led to a record number of applicants for civil service positions, and delayed employment has also become a significant trend. In recent years, more and more Chinese universities have extended the duration of graduate programs from 2 years to 3, with the official explanation being to improve the quality of graduate education, but many believe this is merely a temporary measure to ease employment pressures. The CCP's official data often conceals unfavorable situations, raising concerns that the real figures could be even worse. Many Chinese people and university students are also questioning the accuracy of these reported statistics. The employment rate for college graduates in 2024, according to some official platform, is only 55.5%. I'm part of that 44.5% who haven't found a job yet. In my dorm, there are 6 of us, and only one has a job, working as a sales clerk. So this employment data, doesn't it come from that employment form we had to fill out before graduation? They had us write down where we'd be working, our job positions, and even ask for proof of salary. Some of it's real, but some of it is completely made up. On the surface, the data looks good, but why do so many of our classmates still not have jobs? The issue of youth unemployment in China has become a hot topic recently, with even the CCP's official media exposing the problem of universities falsifying employment data for graduates. After sparking a social outcry, the articles were quickly taken down. An earlier article published by Banyue Tan, a magazine run by Xinhua News Agency, revealed that universities were inflating graduate employment figures. The article quoted students who claimed that their school counselors had instructed them in WeChat groups to report flexible employment or falsely claimed they were working as self-employed content creators to inflate the university's employment statistics. It also mentioned that some parents reported schools telling them that students couldn't receive their diploma without a signed employment agreement. As a result, some online platforms began offering services to stamp employment agreements for students. The article also cited an unnamed University Career Center director who revealed that while the school publicly claimed a 90% employment rate, only 20% of this year's graduates had actually found jobs. Though the article was removed from Banyue Tan's official Weibo and WeChat accounts, its content had already been picked up by major media outlets and bloggers, with screenshots continuing to circulate online. Independent political scholar Chen Daoyin commented that during his teaching days in Shanghai, the university had already required professors to help jobless students resolving the stamping issue. At that time, the overall employment rate was relatively high, so the data inflation problem wasn't as prominent. The exposure of this issue by the internal publication Banyue Tan had a greater impact than anticipated, resulting in the article's removal. Commentator Fang Yuan pointed out that the objectivity and accuracy of statistical work are among the foundations for a country to function normally. He argued that the habitual falsification of official data in China, including data manipulation across various sectors, is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it serves as a form of propaganda, but on the other, it greatly misleads those in leadership positions who rely on this inaccurate information for decision-making. Without access to truthful data, leaders make decisions based on false reports, which can lead to major governance failures. The consequences of such errors in decision-making are severe, as ultimately, society bears the cost of these misguided policies. Fang Yuan also believes that universities forcing students to falsify employment data reflects the fact that Chinese universities are not untouched by corruption. By exposing students to unethical practices at such an early stage, universities instill a lack of moral principles, which in turn has a negative impact on the next generation and contributes to the moral degradation of society.